But is it just a gold story here?
No, I mean, silver hasn't even made a new high yet based on where it was last year, but all the metals are going to go up. The price of everything is going to go up. I mean, when Bernanke's saying that inflation isn't a problem, he's lying. Bernanke sees inflation as the solution. His whole policy is to create inflation. That's what the Fed is. It's an engine for inflation. They create inflation, but they try to pretend that it's not a problem. And, you know, to try to pinpoint the movement in gold on what Bernanke says, no one even cares what he says. He's irrelevant with what he says. It's what he does that's relevant. Gold was going to go up anyway. It doesn't matter what he says. Based on what he's doing, yes, we had a big pullback in the price of gold. That means a lot of people around the world are going to want to buy it. I mean, look at the gold that the Bank of India bought, 200 metric tons. Right. There are other central banks. There are huge buyers beneath the market. If there is any meaningful pullback, you got the Chinese that'll come up. You got Brazilians. You got Europeans. You've got all sorts of money that needs to move into gold.
Let's talk, Phil Flynn, about the future of the U.S. dollar, because a lot of us do think that that future is an important one and that we shouldn't be doing anything to talk down the dollar at this point. But are futures traders believing that that's what the Fed and the Treasury are doing, talking down the dollar?
I think that Peter makes a good point in the fact that the Fed is trying to create inflation because they think inflation is a better alternative to deflation. So he's absolutely right there. But the bottom line is talking down the dollar. He's been happy with the carry trade because the reason why these banks are able to pay back these big loans right now is because these banks have been making money on the carry trades. So I think the answer to the question is, listen, the bottom line is this is going to be a historic time. If the dollar survives this crisis, then I would have to say that the dollar
Phil, hold on. If the dollar survives, what do you mean?
This is
what could happen? What's the worst that could happen to the dollar?
That everybody across the world doesn't accept the dollar as a currency. I mean, that's the worst case scenario. And there have been threats from other countries, such like China and Russia, that said, listen, we're tired of being paid back in printed money.
When I spoke to Tim Geithner, he made an interesting point about the U.S. dollar, and that was that 1 year ago, when fear was at its height, September of 2008, a year and a couple of months ago, everybody rushed into the dollar. It was still perceived as that sort of last resort of safety, and now they're moving out of it because they're looking for more risk.
And Liz,
more money elsewhere.
And to quote what he said when he spoke to him, he called it a healthy development that the dollar's actually declining. He pointed back to during the financial crisis, he said we saw the dollar rise during that time, and now that it's come down, it's actually a healthy development, and it shows signs of recovery.
Peter's bursting. Go ahead.
I don't think that rally in the dollar in 2008 had to do with the flight to safety.
What did it have to do with that?
It had to do with deleveraging. It had to do with the need to buy back dollars that had been borrowed. But I don't think there's any safety in the dollar at all. I think the reason that so many people are fleeing the dollar is not because they want risk, but because they understand how risky the dollar is and they want out. And I do think that if there is another major financial crisis, it's going to be with the dollar weakening, not the dollar strengthening.
Well, Peter,
in fact, it's the weakening dollar that's going to precipitate.
You've been pretty spot on about the decline in the dollar and the rise in threats and particularly the price of gold. But what should we do to strengthen the dollar? Presume just for the moment that somebody in Treasury cares about a strong dollar. What should we do?
First, to the point about Dubai, yes, when the Dubai crisis hit, there were people who bought the dollar on anticipation that the dollar would strengthen, but it didn't strengthen. It actually weakened, and those speculators lost money. Gold went on and made a new high several days after
but how
the Dubai
do we strengthen the dollar, Peter, quickly? Hold on. Peter, how do we strengthen the dollar?
First of all, we have to accept the fact that the dollar is going to have to weaken because of all the mistakes of the past. We have undermined our competitiveness. We have destroyed our manufacturing base. We have encumbered our economy with uncompetitive regulation and taxes that are going to necessitate a lower dollar. But ultimately, if we want to put a floor under the dollar and let the dollar strengthen, what we need to do is reform the Fed. We need higher interest rates that will encourage savings and discourage government and consumer borrowing. Once we have higher interest rates, if we can shrink government so that we can lower taxes and lower regulation, we can be productive again. And if we are productive, if we save and produce, we will then be rewarded with a strengthening currency.
Well,
but right now, everything that we're doing is going to destroy the dollar.
We got to wrap this up. But Sandra, call me of the black helicopter crowd, but I feel like central banks won't let the dollar totally fall. They will intervene. They will, 2 in the morning, start making calls saying, you buy up the dollar to prop it up. And so I'm just wondering if Peter is not wrong. All of these things, we don't have a manufacturing base anymore at all to speak of. Yet the dollar does not totally crash.
But at the end of the day, the word that we're getting from the administration is that they are not trying to help out the dollar right now, and that the dollar's reacting to that. And this isn't just a dollar week story, Liz and Dave. This is based also on sheer investment demand. John Paulson, big asset houses are still coming up with funds and just now jumping on the gold bandwagon. So this isn't just a weak U.S. dollar story. This is a sheer investment demand story.
No, but that's all a part of the weak dollar. The fact that we're flooding the economy with dollars, we have to find something to own because we can't stay in dollars. This is all a function of what the government is doing. And there's nothing the government can do to strengthen the dollar unless they want to abandon all the stimulus, unless they want to raise interest rates, unless they want to bankrupt all the financial entities that they bailed out, unless they want to let the phony economy collapse. They can't do anything about the dollar.
I thought I was on your side here, Peter.
The senatorial candidate from the state of Connecticut, Peter Schiff. Phil Flynn, thank you very much. And Sandra Smith, great to see you all.
Okay, good discussion there. Thanks.
Well, Fed